Welcome to Week in Horror.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
The podcast that deep dives all the films you love.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The week they dropped in horror history.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
With your horror hosts. JL. When a shirtless Sam Elliott with no mustache takes out an alligator with an oar, that's the kind of movie I'm looking for. Eugene.
And we're just casually just like, yeah, so this is probably the best way to go, light someone on fire with gasoline.
Alex.
It would not be an original lineup if I didn't have fucking technical difficulty.
Johnny O.
Now, it's not in Amityville, or wherever it's Amityville.
And Aaron.
They got manure to work with and nothing grew from it.
News, trailers, trivia, special guests, and more.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Live show every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central at youtube.com/weekinhorror.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
And wherever you listen to podcasts.
One by one, we will take you.
Week in Horror. Stay scared. Welcome, horror fans. It is Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. That means it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast. The only podcast that needs trauma to spread. And if you, dear horror fanatic, are listening to us at the top of the week, remember we do this live every Wednesday right here on YouTube. Come join our audience, hang out with us, and see all the cool stuff that our editor does not want you to see. All the stuff that winds up on the cutting room floor. This week, we are covering select horror films released May 21st through May 27th. Thank you all so much for joining me. I am JL, and as you can see, it is me here in the studio tonight. Man, I just realizing, looking at the live stream, my beard is all kinds of insane today. It's been a weird beard day, we'll say that. But possibly, if he gets the opportunity, Eugene may be popping by a little bit later. But he is currently dealing with work, with stuff that we have going on behind the scenes. So it may just be me tonight holding down the fort. I know that Alex is dealing with some family stuff, and I know Aaron is as well. And he's dealing with some difficult stuff regarding his healthcare and his insurance, which is a pain in the ass because insurance is always a pain in the ass. So I hope he knocks it out of the park and gets I think that there's like a hearing going on where it's actually like going to court and shit. It's crazy. So we hope we hope that all sorts out easily, makes his life a hell of a lot easier. But while he's dealing with that stuff and everybody's dealing with some other stuff behind the scenes, you've got me. So here I am tonight. To hold the fort down here at Week in Horror and talk about some fun stuff. We have a really, really good episode scheduled. Some interesting things to talk about. I kind of wish that some of the other guys were here to get their opinions, especially Johnny, because his opinions are always really, really fun. But maybe they'll pop by. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's kind of like in the air. Namely, the big busy thing that we've got going on right now is we just got done shooting a project down in Texas. So I went out of town, went down to Texas to meet up with the guys and Eugene and Johnny, and I saw Alex down there. Unfortunately, didn't get to see Aaron because he lives out east, but we all popped down there to the set. And for those who are Patreon supporters, and as a matter of fact, these amazing individuals there in the banner below, you can see at the bottom of the screen, you got a behind the scenes look and a first glimpse at the project that we shot. Johnny is currently busy editing that as we speak. I believe he is in the suite with his assistant, and they are currently cutting that thing to make sure that it's going to look amazing, so look fantastic. But for all of you patrons, it went up live via Patreon. You got a 30-minute video, which is a behind-the-scenes tour, and of course a first look at the film itself. So I hope you all enjoyed that very, very much. If you did, be sure to comment on there on the Patreon, or of course anywhere else, just how much you dug it if you had a chance to sit down and watch that bad boy. But that was especially for y'all, because all you Patreons, whether you're the $1 tiers all the way up to the top, all of you made that happen. That was all possible because of y'all. So thank you very, very much. And as soon as that is available, we will do a special screening of our latest project solely for you guys. We'll do a project for you before we decide to take that thing out on the road. So all kinds of fun stuff. So that's what we are busy. So before we kick things off, let's take a look at who is in the live chat tonight. I see Raven Darkstars here. Good to see you, Raven. Travis Brown as well. Good to see you, Travis. Says evening, everyone, and saw the Patreon video and shocked that Johnny's a stalker all the time. He's always the stalker. It seems like that's what he does. You know, it's just who he is by nature. Good to see you, Travis. Sherry Tilley is here. Good to see you, Sherry. Casey Cooper as well. Well met. Thank you, Casey Cooper. And we started right on time, good sir. Anna is here. Good to see you, Anna. Says hello. We're listening while he drives home. Good. Cool. Thank you so much, Anna. Anacito Maldonado's here. Says hello, everyone. Good to see you, Anacito. J-Verse as well. Good to see you, J-Verse. Sarcasm says hi, hello, or hey, hello, or fellow fiends. Bleh, I can't talk tonight. Fellow fiends. Good to see you, Sarcasm. Smitty is broken, beaten, scarred. Hashtag we don't care. Good to see you, Smitty. Thanks so much for being here, bud. Do appreciate you popping in. Elizabeth S. says hi, JL. Week in Horror. Good to see you, Elizabeth. Sorsha Red Hair as well says hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, Sorsha. We do appreciate it. Let's see. Who else we got here? Joshua Lee says another solo show. You know, we just get busy in the background. You know, the guys are out there shooting, doing the stuff. You know, it's the brand has expanded, and we're finally getting a chance to do the things that we really, really wanted to do. And of course, we're bringing you along for the ride on that. So all of you, like I said, all you patrons have the access to the behind the scenes video tour and first look at the film that we just shot. It's available via Patreon, patreon.com/weekinhorror. So I hope you get a chance to check that out. But that was y'all that helped to do that. So we do appreciate that. Let's see. Who else is here? Tina Jones here is lurking in the background. Good to see you, Tina. Thanks so much for being here. And of course, McKinnon Mitchell Studios. Good to see you, McKinnon. Is only here for a little while, getting ready to finally watch Evil Dead Rise. Fucking A. Awesome film. You're going to fucking love it. I don't want to spoil anything for you, so I'm just going to let you walk in blind. But I will say this, you're going to love it. You absolutely will. But definitely let us know. Let us know what you thought. Because I'm just in love with that film. I'm just absolutely in love with that movie. All right. Bunch of excellent people here in the chat. And of course, you can see all the amazing people down there in the banner below that helped to make this show possible. That's our Patreon banner scrolling by. All those amazing people. Check it out. Patreon.com/weekinhorror. Link is down in the description about how you can support the show via that or our PayPal and help make things possible, like the film that we just shot down in Texas and the multitude of other productions that we have going that we have starting this year alone. So we appreciate it. Wrote in the last name is here. Gabba Gabba to you says, well, Johnny O can take time out to bitch about little Chilito last night, but can't take time out for the horror chills today. Unfortunately not. So, you know, it's quite well, I mean, doing content or doing commentary on other people's stuff is easy, especially dumb stuff like that guy. So for his YouTube channel, but this would require he actually watch the movies that we have scheduled, and those movies have been scheduled out for almost 6 months. But if he doesn't have the time to sit down and watch them, then he wouldn't be able to provide much commentary. So I can understand that. Josh Lee says, thanks. Once the stream is done, I'm going to pass out for the night. Sleepy. Good times. He says, just tired. Oh, yeah, new medication. Yeah, definitely. I understand that. I absolutely do. Well, we have some cool stuff to talk about. And, of course, I want to get y'all's opinions and reactions before we dive into this. And some cool movies to talk about. Some really, really good ones. Seems like Johnny's only available for all the crap movies and for all the crappy movies. And he's never here for the legendary films. Because we have a major legendary picture we're going to talk about tonight. But first and foremost, I want to get people's opinions. It recently hit the wire that the film has been greenlit and virtually everybody is returning. And it seems, what I'm talking about, of course, is Smitty's Broken Beat says, take care, Jill. Thanks so much, bud. Thanks so much for popping in, man. I do appreciate it. Of course, I'm talking about Beetlejuice 2. So, you're right, Travis Brown. Almost 1 week till Friday, man. You got it. And I hope you have fun, dude. Beetlejuice 2 has been reportedly greenlit. Everybody is returning. I think everybody who's available is returning. Of course, Tim Burton is directing. Winona Ryder is coming back as Lydia. And, of course, Catherine O'Hara is coming back as her mother. I believe Jenna Ortega is joining the ranks because I think Jenna Ortega is kind of like Tim Burton's new Helena Bonham Carter. But that's just my opinion, just, by virtue of the characters they play. And then, of course, Michael Keaton is returning as the titular character. So There's no further details have been released. Just that this has been greenlit. Apparently, the fans really, really want it. Tim Burton is down to do it. Everybody signed on to come back. So I'm very, very curious what people think about this, because obviously Beetlejuice is a beloved film from the 80s that we loved. And, I remember growing up with it, and it was just shocking and amazing and scary at some point, funny as hell. So Javer says, I'm very skeptical about what I heard about Beetlejuice 2. True. I mean, there are some people that are skeptical, some people that are not. But Casey Cooper says, so another Batman. It's like, well, yeah, Michael Keaton is returning to play Batman in the new Flash film. So he's still out there, doing like that, and word is he's returning to play Beetlejuice, another one of his iconic characters, directed by Tim Burton. Travis Brown says, except for Jeffrey Jones. Yes, except for Jeffrey Jones, and we know why. Sorcerer Red here says, yes, Keaton back as Beetlejuice. I'm excited. I'm excited as well. I think it'll be really, really cool. McKinnon says, it's a good movie, but I am in the minority that never got the massive praise behind it. Yeah, I think it kind of caters to that big Tim Burton crowd. I really loved it because I like Tim Burton's cinematography. I love his art style. I love his this goofy artist kind of thing. I love that Nightmare Before Christmas, Edward Scissorhands, Frankenweenie. There's a certain visual aesthetic that Tim Burton is known for, and I really, really enjoy it. If there was a spectrum of that kind of weirdness, then he is definitely at the end of the very, very tame. Of that kind of eccentric and arts. I just love his style. I love his style, and I can't wait to see this. One of my favorite films of his is Big Fish. It's just, that film knocked me off my feet because that film hits home in a number of different personal ways, and I love that story. So I love what Tim Burton brings to the table. I've never had an issue with any of his any of his productions except for Planet of the Apes, which I thought was crap, and he totally ripped off Kevin Smith. But yeah, I'm totally looking forward to Beetlejuice 2 should it come out. I hope it does. Rodell Sam says, I'm skeptical based on a lot of Tim's recent work. Possibly, yeah. There's some healthy skepticism, absolutely. Josh Lee says, I should pick up a copy of the Handbook for the Recently Deceased. Awesome. Yeah, Tina Jones says, sequel, Rutrow, always risky. They are. Christo Kieran is here. Good to see you, Christo. Thanks so much for being here. Says, howdy, JL. Howdy, everyone. Good to see you, Christo. Jay Verse says, well, Smith and Bird do not get along. They do not. They don't. Sarcasm says, Big Fish makes me bawl like a little girl every time. Oh, it hits me. It hits me like a truck. The fairy tale, like fairy tale stories for adults, man. And it hits me right in both the nostalgia and in the memory, centers. Tina Justice Big Fish was amazing. Absolutely. Big Fish is one of his best films. And Big Fish is up there with I'm a big fan of Edward Scissorhands. I loved Edward Scissorhands. I loved Beetlejuice, of course, and I love Nightmare Before Christmas. I also like Corpse Bride, but yeah, Big Fish was up there, big time. It reads like a VCR manual. It absolutely does. Handbook for the Recently Deceased reads like a VCR manual. It does. Stereo instructions. This reads like stereo instructions. Freight Edges is here. Good to see you, Freight Edges. Thanks so much for being here tonight. Charlie Welch, the only man on the internet never make a bet with. Good to see you, Charlie. Thanks so much for hanging out, Welchie. Thor Rasmussen is here. Says, good evening, JL and chat. Hope everyone is well. Thank you so much, Thor. We are doing quite well. Sorcerer Redder says, Dark Shadows I liked. Very cool. Josh Lee says, wait, JL has a heart? Yes, I do. It's black and it's shriveled and it occasionally beats, but yes, I do have one. I absolutely do. Tina Jones says, yes, I'm lurking. Quit baiting me. Subjects close to your heart. Subjects close to your heart. Oh, come and get it. So we will see. But Beetlejuice 2 apparently has been greenlit. That's some of the big news that's currently out right now in the horror community. The question is, will it happen? And if it does, will it be amazing? Because everybody's coming back. What will Michael Keaton bring to the role now that so many years have passed by? Plato says, lurking and working. Of course, he is. We figured you were, bud. Thanks so much for popping in. And Rodell Sims says, Ed Wood. He was amazing. Ed Wood was amazing. Johnny Depp was great. Helena Bonham Carter was fantastic. Everybody in that was great. It was wonderfully directed. So Josh Lee says, hello, Johnny O. Yep, he's hanging out in the back. I know he's editing up a storm right now. And by the way, Johnny, well, I don't know if I sent the video to Eugene, and Eugene liked it. The behind the scenes video and tour. I sent the completed deal to Eugene. Eugene said he loved it. It's available for all the patrons to view. So I don't know if you've had an opportunity to share that with you, just to give you a heads up. Let me see. So the next big thing, but definitely let us know in the comments below what your thoughts on, of course, the Beetlejuice sequel. Do you think it'll happen? Do you think it'll be good? Michael Keaton returning. He obviously not as young as he was back, almost 30 years ago. What was that, 86 when that came out, or 88? Man, it's obviously been a minute. I was young, but the first Beetlejuice film, I haven't thought about that. I'm like, Beetlejuice, 1988. Yeah, same year that Friday the 13th, same year that Jason Took Manhattan. So 1988, 98, 2008, 2018, over 30 years, 35 years later, the question is, can Michael Keaton still bring it? I think he can. He was amazing as the fucking Vulture. I think he's going to be amazing as Batman, coming back again. So, yeah. So Rodinello's name says, but then there was Alice in Wonderland. I thought Alice in Wonderland was charming. Charming to a degree. Weird, but charming. But then again, the story's fucking weird. It's weird. And, of course, as though he read the script himself, Travis Brown brings up Casey Cooper says, not true, JL. You have a heart of gold, cold, yellow, and hard, and surrounded by earth. It's like, yeah, possibly, Casey Cooper. Thank you very much. But as though he read the script himself, Travis Brown brings up, we got a teaser for Five Nights at Freddy's. We absolutely did, and we're going to show it to you now. So if you are a fan of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, the PC game franchise, there is an adaptation coming out, and it's going to release this October, but here is the trailer. It recently dropped. Let's go to the Horror TV and check this bad boy out.
Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, where fantasy and fun come to life. Hit it, guys. If you're watching this video, it means you've been selected as Freddy's newest security guard.
Hello?
We're going to have so much fun together.
Nice. So that was the teaser trailer, the teaser for Five Nights at Freddy's. And thank you, Travis Brown, for sharing that over on the Discord. But yeah, people are obviously very, very excited about this. I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be good. This is going to be, obviously we had the Banana Splits horror film. We had Willy's Wonderland, which are in the same vein as Five Nights at Freddy's. Not exactly, but in the same vein. But now we have Five Nights at Freddy's. Circab says FNAF. FNAF was one of the most boring horror games I've ever played. I am far more interested in the movie. I'm very excited for the film. Travis Brown says, hope they can explore the lore of the Bite of 87. That should be interesting. I know a little bit about that because I've been researching Five Nights at Freddy. I never actually played it myself. I knew of it, but I never got into the fandom. I now am aware of how many games exist, how many are in the actual like continuity of the primary franchise, and then of course how many like spin-off games there are. So I followed along. I've read about it. It looks interesting. Road knows names says John Oliver did an expose on Chuck E. Cheese. And it's weird to think. I watched that. I actually watched both of those. I watched the Chuck E. Cheese one and the Homeowners Association one. So yeah. So Five Nights at Freddy is a legendary. It's a legendary video game franchise. It's about essentially being stuck in the player character being stuck in Freddy Fazbear's pizza place, and the animatronics are possessed by the spirits of the dead, and of course they try to attack him and kill him, and he has to survive the night. And it's about it pretty much is jump scares, but it's exceedingly popular. Has a whole bunch of titles, like I think the 16, 17 total titles that are attributed to within the franchise, and super, super popular. Now we're finally going to get a film adaptation. People have been waiting for this one badly. And as a matter of fact, it was really, really funny because it made the news. It's so popular that before the trailer was released, it was actually leaked online, but it wasn't a finished copy of the teaser. It was just this rough, really gross looking, terrible, cut, but the guy who leaked it said, I'm going to leak this for the people. And he put it out there and, of course, got into all kinds of hot water. It got completely shut down. Then shortly after that, of course, Blumhouse and the filmmaking team behind it released the actual trailer, and it looks fantastic. I think it looks great. So it's going to be fun. But yeah, even, it was hardcore. Even, that legendary dude, Papa Meat, Meat Canyon, who we are huge fans of his content. But he on his adjacent channel, Papa Meat channel, he was reviewing that, and he almost got shut down just for doing a review where he showed some highly blurred out, versions. Like he had to go back and re-edit the video because they got smacked over there. But it's really, really popular. And by the way, Hunter, if you hear this, if you ever listen to this episode or you see my message, hit me up, brother. We'd love to have you on the show. You love horror. We love horror. You have, the background is there, filmmaking wise. Fuck yeah. So, but yeah, it was really, really popular, super, super anticipated. And of course, it finally came out. So we got a chance to show it to you here. I'm excited about it. Let us know in the comments below if you are also excited for the Five Nights at Freddy, or the FNAF film coming out October 27th of this year. Should be good. Oh, we got some new people who popped in here. Oh, Javer says, I've got to play it in VR. Awesome. We have to try that. I absolutely will. Donnie Does That is here. Good to see you, Donnie. H. Jasper is here. Says, hey. Good to see you, H. Jasper. Colin, definitely not Cromwell, says, hello, everyone. First time on this channel. You are very, very welcome. Thank you so much, Colin, definitely not Cromwell. We do appreciate you popping in. I'm familiar with Colin. I know Colin, but I've always seen him on other channels on YouTube, but now he's here. So thank you very much, Colin. We do appreciate you popping in and checking out the show. And Sorcerer Redditor says, I saw bits of it on gaming channels, but it did not pique my interest. This movie might make me curious enough to watch it. I'm like I said, I like the look of that teaser. I think it should be fun. Now, who knows? It could fall into the vein of Willy's Wonderland, because Willy's Wonderland I enjoyed Willy's Wonderland because I love a horror movie and I fucking love Nick Cage. A lot of people didn't dig that film, but I really enjoyed that film. In fact, we did a bloodbath debate off of that, Willy's Wonderland versus the Banana Splits, as to who would win. But you can check that out. All of our other bloodbath debates that we've done. We're up to like 42 bloodbath debates. We have 42 coming up this month, which is going to be Art the Clown versus Sam Hain, or Sammy from the Trick or Treat franchise. It's going to be interesting. All kinds of cool stuff coming up. Absolutely. All right. So why don't we kick this bad boy off? That's a problem with being solo in the studio, is if I hit my vape, or if I go to take a drink to wet my whistle with my go juice here, I wind up with dead air. Never good. Sarcasm says, I loved Willy's proof that Cage can act even without lines. Damn straight. Absolutely. And it felt very game-like. Protagonist needs to solve one problem, get his car fixed. How does he need to get his car fixed? He needs to clean up this place overnight. What does he need to do to clean up the place overnight? Survive the night. That's easy. Good to go. Serial killers possessing animatronics. Fucking amazing. All right. Well, we have got some horror movies to talk about tonight, because that's what we fucking do here at Week in Horror. And the first one we're going to talk about is Possession, released May 25th, 1981. Fuck, man. I was 81. Damn. I wasn't even officially 1 year old yet when this came out. That's insane. All right. I was almost one. It was almost my 1 year birthday. But yes, almost. Very close. Like a matter of a week. But Possession, released May 25th, 1981. Legendary horror film. Let's take a look at this trailer. Cue up the horror TV.
I've completed my job.
That's why we want to rehire you.
It's out of the question.
And what would be the reason for your refusal?
Family.
Maybe all couples go through this.
You have someone.
Yes.
Do you sleep with him.
I would agree with that sentiment. Yes, essential viewing.
How long is it gonna last?
I don't know.
When I'm away from you, I think of you as an animal or a woman possessed. And then I see you again and all this disappears. You know, love isn't something you could just switch from channel to channel. Who is he?
Do you believe in God? Is he there?
Yes, so that was Possession. So a fantastic horror film. So Possession, directed by Andrei Zulawski and written by Zulawski and Frederick Tootin, starring Isabella Gianni and Sam Neill, as well as Margaret Carstensen, Heinz Bennett, Johanna Hofer, Carl During, Sean Lawton, and Leslie Moulton. The film itself basically centers around Sam Neill's character who works in information or intelligence, who works in government intelligence, and pretty much as an international spy, and completes his mission and decides to stay home and with his wife and his young son. Unfortunately, while he was away, something happened, and his wife begins to exhibit increasingly disturbing behavior after asking for a divorce. It's revealed that she had an affair, and things very, very, in the most sublime and surrealistic way, slowly begin to hit the shit hits the fan in this one. It is a brilliant fucking movie that was a co-production between France and West Germany, was filmed in West Berlin in 1980, and that's, there's so many references to the Berlin Wall and the situation that was going on at the time. As a matter of fact, when you look at one of the beautiful things that Zulawski did when he was shooting the movie was when he was capturing all the exterior areas of West Berlin, it's like that, it seems like it's a ghost town, like there's nobody around. That was very much the way it was then. It was a very taut and very, extremely, I would say extremely dangerous time to just be out and about, especially near the wall. And so you can see all the graffiti, demanding that people take down the wall to end it. And that's what goes very, very well. It was a wonderful thing that Zulawski chose to do this. Well, actually, the circumstances were bad. At the time that this was written, Zulawski, I believe it was, Zulawski was going through, make sure that I get that correctly. Yeah, I just want to make sure I quote the names correctly, make sure that I get that correctly behind the time of it. So at the time, Zulawski was going through an extremely acrimonious divorce with his wife, Malgorzata Braunek. So who was also an actress. So Zulawski and Braunek were going through a brutal divorce, and because she apparently sprung it on him out of nowhere, that he did not see it coming. There were no warning signs, and all of a sudden she wanted a divorce, and he was very, very much in love with her. And as they were going through this, and it was extremely acrimonious, very, very nasty divorce, he wrote this as kind of like his method of coping with the situation. And you will see that throughout the entire picture. Not only, obviously, the divorce between Sam Neill characters and Johnny's characters. You'll see the divorce going there, but there's the idea of separation between things that were once united. So once, beautifully united, there is the idea of the Berlin Wall. There's the idea of work and home. There's the idea of the marriage in of itself, of father and son, of wife and lover, wife and husband, the demarcation between these two, and of course the walls that we put up between ourselves, given the roles that we play, like what we present to the other in our relationship. Because we see that also with the demarcation, the almost doppelganger effect of the school teacher played by Johnny, which is the school teacher for his son, who was Helen, the character Helen. played also by Isabella Johnny, doing dual work on that one. So she with her representing like the perfect housewife, like the perfect female companion who doesn't challenge, who takes care of the child, who keeps the home steady. Because you see the moments that she's in them, she's interacting, she is sexually open and of course willing to, eager and willing to take care of the child, eager and willing to clean up the house and make sure everything is in order while he does his job. Whereas she, with the entity that she is embracing in the more graphic scenes, but that obviously turns into the perfect husband who is ready and willing to satisfy her needs whenever she wants and will just be there to do whatever she wants to make her life comfortable and ensure that she can explore herself without judgment or without limitation. So it's these things that we demand of ourselves. It explores gender roles, it explores I would guess relationship roles, and explores state role, the idea of what the state expects of us, the idea of what we expect from ourselves. It is a beautifully deep, and albeit you can see the trauma running through, the current of trauma running throughout the entire film, and all of this is made all the better by one of the most standout performances I've ever seen from Isabelle Adjani, who of course won Best Actress at the 1982 Cannes. I believe Cannes Film Festival. Yes, 1981. Sorry, 1981 Cannes Festival. In 1981 Cannes, she won the Best Actress for this because she is absolutely fucking fearless. It's like insane. Like the girl just goes full broke, and it is brilliantly done. And I love the concept, the very surrealistic concept, because everything that happens to her that is odd and strange. Everything that's going on seems to be in her head. There's the possibility that everything that's happening is in her head because no one is really there to deal with to anybody who encounters what she's encountering, like the entity or whatever it is, this squid creature in the apartment as it's developing and growing into what will eventually be Sam Neill's character. No one ever survives it except for Sam, but even Sam Neill doesn't survive it. So nobody ever gets to recount these tales. It's possible that the idea that the creature itself doesn't actually exist in reality, and that it is a reflection of Anna's growing psychosis, that her instability is as a result of the uncertainty of her husband's relationship or her husband's work in the with the State Department or with the government. He's constantly gone. He can't tell her anything. He is barred from communicating with her, and he makes great money doing it, but he's never there. And as a result of being alone in the high tension situation of Berlin, living so close to the wall, and dealing with the rigors of being a single mother at this time, no husband there, not to mention the kind of social aspect, the optics of that slowly she began to descend into psychosis, looking for that kind of companionship, looking for that other that she needs for that stability. And then by the time he's done and he hangs up his hat and he's ready to retire and come home and he's got all the money he needs, she's already too far gone and has already, dabbled, has already had an affair with someone else. Obviously, this insanity is taking place with this monster that has entered their lives. And then everything is set against the background of the possibility of nuclear war, which was going on, because obviously how the film ends ambiguously with the bombs going off outside as the doppelganger has returned to the teacher at the house. It's very, very strange. Sarcasm brings up, I caught the water as an allegory as well. So many levels of metaphor that the monster is the least scary thing. Exactly. There is so much here. It's absolutely, there are a number of ways. You'd have to watch this thing a number of times in order to try and catch everything. Not just the monster in and of itself, and as it develops within the kind of rundown apartment that she runs off to. Because at one point she leaves and she winds up staying in this apartment on like like a rundown area of Berlin, and it's this decrepit, falling apart apartment, and she seemingly staying there with like no furniture. She's just in there, and one of the private detectives traces her to that, tails her to this place, and that's where he discovers the monster for the first time, because that's essentially where she's going to have her illicit affairs. But it's all happening there in her microcosm. So is it really happening in reality? We can't confirm that. Even when Sam Neill's character goes and sees this particular thing, that interaction could quite possibly be in her mind. which is why he never interacts at the moment. And so we only see his interactions, his real interactions, his visceral interactions after he comes into the apartment and sees the dead bodies and everything. That's when he freaks out, but not when he sees this moment with this creature, with the weird tentacle sex thing. So it's a beautifully shot film, and definitely Johnny deserved the best actress for this one. I would say the tunnel sequence in which the tunnel abortion sequence that takes place is really, really intense. And sometimes I would say it's disturbing. It's disturbing to a degree. Imagining the actress going through that, and finding that depth to run through this. But of course, it's an absolutely stunning scene, and the film is beautifully shot. Cinematography speaking, the colors are the colors that stand out are meant to stand out. Everything else is set against the muted, dreary background of the dying edges of Germany, surrounding the wall. And so we see this country divided, being driven towards the state, and everything is falling apart and crumbling all around the area of division. Far away from, the further you get away, the prettier things are. But right there at the cracks, everything is degenerating. And you can see that throughout all of this. It's encompassed in the characters, encompassed in every single relationship you see, especially notably in the relationship between Sam Neill and his work partners, who keep trying to bring him back into the fold until eventually shit just descends into absolute fucking insanity and death and destruction. And I gotta give credit. I love seeing raw Sam Neill, like early raw Sam Neill, the level of energy that he brings that he brought as Mark was absolutely, and it was just beyond intense. I loved, because nowadays, given his advantage, he's up there in age, because I think right now he is 75 years old. So at the time, I have to say, because I think initially he received his first big breakthrough was in Sleeping Dogs in 1977. So that wasn't long after this. And then, of course, he did, Omen 3, the Final Conflict, and Possession, which were both in 1981. So at the same year he played Possession, he also played Damien in the third Omen film. I love that early energy that he brings to, that he was able to bring to his roles. That was almost like this frenetic this frenetic energy on the verge of just insanity. But then he always comes back and reels it back in, and then I absolutely love that. And it's part of what makes his performance in movies like Event Horizon so good. It's because he's allowed to play to his absolute limits, or even in Daybreakers, when he can be subdued and then explode out with that energy, then come back. I love that he has the capability of doing that. Sir Cab says, one of the best psychological horror films I have seen, just brilliant. My only relatively minor complaint was the sound quality. Everywhere had an echo that made it pretty difficult to understand. And I noticed that as well. And while it could quite possibly have been a result of the sound issue, I kind of took it as, if you think about the space, like how empty everything is around the area of division. Everything is so empty. Everything is so wide open. There is not a lot of people. There's barely any traffic. Any action that's taking place is usually the only thing that's happening in that vast sequence. When Mark and Anna are having their big fight after he's slapped her in the face a lot. And there's a lot of brutal kind of domestic violence that goes down in this on both sides of the fence. When they have that big fight and they storm out into the street, you're thinking, you automatically, as the audience, you kind of recoil, because the idea of having a knockdown drag out with your spouse in the street itself is unnerving. Like, if you were to watch that to happen, that would evoke that visceral response. Imagining yourself being in that situation where you suddenly realize, I'm having a knockdown drag out with my wife, okay, here in the middle of the street, screaming at one another. And she, of course, she's bleeding from the mouth, I think, because I slapped her around a bit. And yet there's nobody there. The echo reinforces the idea that they, despite being in the country of Germany, in Berlin, they are very much alone. The only witnesses to this are the guards up there on the wall. The guards watching everything going on. As we see the theme that the individuals watching through the binoculars are the only ones that seem to see everything, and yet they do nothing. And so that echo kind of reinforced the idea of just how alone everyone was in that situation, because you do ostensibly go through trauma alone, even if it's with a partner. That you have a partner that you're currently going through it with, you experience that trauma alone. It is yours, whether it's the trauma of the divorce or the trauma of her psychosis. They deal with those separately because you can't share that subjective experience. And that likely came from the director's inability to understand, or his inability to reconcile why his beloved wife suddenly wanted a divorce out of nowhere. It's like, it makes no sense. It's impossible to reconcile, but he can't be really in her shoes and feel her experiences without trying to reconcile it from his perspective, which makes sense. And this drives that home, which is why I think predominantly it is so absolutely unsettling as a film, because it's not just a supernatural psychological horror. It's also a domestic drama, which really puts the scope of certain things that these very wealthy, prim and proper individuals from a bit of a higher society could be reduced to this kind of a state. Brutal, beautiful, absolutely stunning, with amazing performances across the board by Sam Neill, Isabella Adjani, Margit Carstensen. Heinz Bennett actually was fucking... I consider Heinz Bennett, who played Heinrich, who was the lover. Sir Cab said, did you get a vibe that Mark may also be struggling with his sexual preference as well? I didn't get that, but what I saw was his willingness and his capability to manipulate people. I got that. Heinrich, the character, I saw that, yes, that was an individual who very much played both fields, very much bisexual, very much, swung either way. A very weird, esoteric kind of guy who just, who never really, panicked or lost focus. But I saw Mark as having the ability, being the line of work he's in, as being able to manipulate any situation to work to his advantage, so long as the other person is driving things. When Mark tries to drive stuff himself, he fails. So he's a facilitator that hangs in the background, much like an international spy. In reality, they influence things like puppet masters. They're in the background, saying this, doing this, saying the right things. It wasn't so when Mark goes to confront Heinrich the first time, he gets his ass whooped because he tries to swing on Heinrich. Heinrich kicks the living shit out of him. But then when Heinrich returns, and Heinrich is the one that's emotional, and already we know he's dangerous, Mark is cool, he's calm, he's collected, and he manipulates Heinrich into literally walking away, because that's what Mark is good at. Once Mark has gotten his hand, gotten a good hold on the situation, he can work it to his advantage by manipulating people from the background, which is essentially what he does, because he's very good at that. He is a spy in that respect. So I got the sense that Mark could use Heinrich's predilections against him. But when he was super, super emotional, he didn't have that capacity, which was an amazing level of depth to see that. That's the way I interpreted it. I could be wrong on that. But that's the way I saw it, given the interactions between Mark and his employers towards the beginning of the film, when they paid him an exorbitant amount of money, and he just flatly was like, no, I'm not, I'm done. I'm retired. I'm done. And they're like, please come back. This, whatever. And I saw that this is a guy who can stand his ground when he's not the one leading the charge, that he's very good at, operating in the unseen, which is what he is. When the focus isn't him, he's very solid, because when Heinrich approaches Mark at his apartment, the subject was, of course, Heinrich was looking for Anna. And of course, he has information. He can use that to manipulate Heinrich. He can play this, which is why he winds up setting Heinrich up into a situation to get killed. And then, of course, is able to cover the tracks of what's going on. But the minute he gets his hands dirty, like really dirty, like with the motorcycle sequence and shooting at the cops, things obviously go off the rails very, very quickly. It's intense. Fucking love it. Jeremy Duncan, good to see you. It says, Jeremy Duncan says, yellow, green, blue all. Good to see you, Jeremy. Thanks so much for popping in. If you haven't had a chance to watch Possession, I strongly recommend it. It's available via, I believe it's available via Shudder. So if you have your Shudder subscription going, definitely check it out. You will see some of the most phenomenal horror performances that I've seen in a long time. Definitely a horror film with some serious body horror going on. And of course, a deep, profound psychological drama with a lot of metaphor. And you can see, obviously, the pain that Andrei Zulawski was going through at the time. This is how he managed to this is how he was able to work through that very, very difficult time in his life. It's brutal, and I believe that a lot of people will identify with. They'll identify not only with the domestic drama, but with the socio-political context, which is very similar to the movie The Devil, which was also directed by Andrzej Zulawski, and it was very critical of the communist government. It was banned by the communist government in Poland when it came out. But very similar to that, with an examination of the socialist bloc at the time, the potential of the horrors of nuclear apocalypse, and then of course, there's so much to be taken from this. Not to mention, if you are a huge horror fan, you will see the inspiration that this film had going forward into other films. So many directors have this on their must-watch list, and of course, movies like The Brood and because very similar to Samantha Eggar in that film. So there's a number one like scenes, and even movies that were outside of like Scenes from a Marriage. There's a bunch of films that drew from this one. You'll see a lot of elements that are repeated. And I would say Barker likely took a lot of inspiration from this as well. So you can see that in some snippets. I think Barker likely dug this one as a writer as he was developing in the early 80s. All right. So, but my question is, that leads us to the question that we have for the audience. So the one thing I want to know, and no turd polishing necessary. This one shines on its own, Sarcasm. It absolutely does. No turd polishing on this one. Oh, Sarcasm says it's on Internet Archive as well. Fantastic. Awesome. So the question I want to ask the audience, having watched the film, do you think that the creature, the entity that Anna was ostensibly having her affair with, do you think that entity was a projection of her psychosis, or did that monster actually exist? Do you think it was real, or was it all in Anna's mind? Let us know down in the comments below, or of course at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Love to hear your thoughts on this one, what you loved about it, what you didn't. And of course, if you thought that the entity that Anna was screwing around with, the entity that was literally the cause of the breakup between her and her husband, do you think that was in her mind, or was it actually there and not a figment of her psychosis? Definitely let us know. Jeremy Douglas says it was an AI entity. That's funny. But yeah, beautiful movie, fucking amazing film. Everything was great about it. But I get, and who was it who brought up the water concept? When you so when you bring up the water concept, the idea at the very, very end, when the kid like runs into the bathroom and drowns himself in the tub, it totally tracks with that. And Sarcasm brought up, I saw it as a teenager, chopped to hell, and it made no sense and it sucked ass. Absolutely, because Possession was a victim of the video nasty pandemic, the video nasty epidemic. So it was banned in the UK and it was released in the US, but 30 minutes of the film had to be cut out for it to get a US release. If you wanted the uncut version, like the original cut is like over 2 hours long. So if you want to see that, you can see it now today. But when it originally released in the States, it was heavily edited so it could get past the censorship boards. And then, of course, in the UK, completely banned because it was a video nasty. So the one you saw, Sarcasm, as a teenager likely sucked because it was the one that was all chopped to hell here in the United States. The uncut one on Archive, yes. Very impressive fucking movie. Zed Zippy's here. Good to see you, Zed Zippy's. I want to picture this meeting on Monday like the five families meeting in The Godfather. Okay. Zed Zippy, good to see you. Genova28 is here. Good to see you, Genova. Thanks so much for popping in. J-Verse says, it got gored by Tipper? Probably. Case Cooper says, Anna's psychosis and a desire for tentacle sex. A little bit of Asian influence there. I can see that. Sir Kev says, I think it was a projection of what she wanted Mark to become, and her concept was a work in progress, not a monster at all. Interesting. Very interesting. Jeremy Duncan says, Tipper gored. I love it. Yeah, Tipper gore was a bit of a problem. Back in those days. All right, let's move on to our next film. We got good stuff. This one released May 26, 1993, and is a very, very interesting little film called Doppelganger. Let's check out this trailer. I think the shock screen. I heard other names for the horror TV. Shock screen. I don't know. Shock screen. Does that work? A little bit of alliteration there. Let's find out. Let's check out this trailer.
Holly has found someone new.
Sorry I scared you.
Someone very secret.
It's very romantic.
Someone who hides from us all. Another self, a deeper, darker side that is capable of the unimaginable.
Fear, anger, hatred, the darkest, most primal
part of her no longer hides inside.
Look, just don't touch me. Don't confuse me with her. She may look like me, but she's not me.
It has awakened and taken control.
It's probably forced out by some kind of trauma.
What does it want?
Somebody attacked you, all right?
And now, the only thing she has to fear is herself.
All right, that was a trailer for Doppelganger, which is a supernatural horror film directed by Avi Nesher, Israeli director Avi Nesher, starring Drew Barrymore, George Newborn, and of course, Dennis Christopher, Leslie Hope, Sally Kellerman, George Maharis, Peter Dobson, and Stanley DeSantis. And an early appearance by Danny Trejo, who is in this bad boy. And I believe Sean Whalen as well. Sean Whalen, brother of Frank Whalen, was in this. So, but yeah, Danny Trejo was in this one. So the film centers and written by Avi Nesher as well, but the film centers around a young woman who, after being accused of murder, moves to a new city and is apparently followed by someone who looks exactly like her, or followed by her titular doppelganger. And as a series of murders begin to take place, people begin to suspect her until the horrifying truth is revealed in the end. Oh, sarcasm. Oh, yes. Okay, so Sarcasm is asking what happened to Hallowed. So, okay, I have to prep before we dive into this movie. I have to explain this. So, last week at the end of the show, we announced that we were going to talk about a movie called Hallowed, which is a religious themed serial killer film. And I did everything in my power to find this movie. I was able to find a copy of it on DVD out of state, but some other DVD distribution place had a copy of it, and I could have bought one, but it wouldn't have arrived to me until like the 20th. Like shipping and I couldn't find another version of shipping for it, so I couldn't get it here faster. There was no other option for it, so it would have gotten here way too late. Online, even in the weird CD sites, I could not find a copy of this movie. I contacted the director. I can't remember his name, but anyway, I contacted the director, I contacted the production company, and I contacted the distribution company, and I got no response from anybody. Probably because the movie came out in 2009. But the only thing I was able to find in the film was the trailer and 2 clips from the film, which didn't say much. So it was on Hourglass Films, was the YouTube channel that hosted it, because in 2019. The same director came out with another film called A Psycho's Path. And, so Sarkam says, I watched Hallowed painfully with Slavic overdubbing. I couldn't even find that one. I couldn't find that one. So I adjusted on Sunday. I gave it as long as I could. I adjusted it to Doppelganger because Doppelganger was easily found. But yeah. Rodeo Name says Machines of Loving Grace called. They want their soundtrack back. Fucking love Machines of Loving Grace. Awesome. Hey, Extra J, good to see you. Thanks so much for popping in. But yeah, we had to watch. So I switched it to Doppelganger, but I apologize for the confusion there. But that's my bad. Jeremy Duncan says the Doppelganger must take over its host fully and have killed them before they could become its host. It's a very, very weird movie. So the one thing I have to point out is that Doppelgangerism I found it to be intriguing, not the greatest movie. As far as acting goes, it's okay. Drew Barrymore is good, pretty much anything she does. She's beautiful, she's believable, she's a strong and talented actress. Everybody around her was pretty solid as well. You know, everybody did. It's a movie full of character actors. So aside, Drew Barrymore surrounded by a lot of individuals who pretty much do who pretty much do characters. And so everything worked to that degree. Everything was functional, formulaic. It was solid. So everybody does their job. The film was shot okay. It was shot decently. There wasn't anything extreme about it, anything that really popped out or anything that was really intriguing. And but as far as it goes, the film itself strides so many genres. That's what I found to be the most intriguing thing about this. Was the film strides okay, so you can say that it goes into thriller territory, it goes into mystery territory, it goes into slasher territory, and it goes into sci-fi territory and horror. So virtually, and I would say a little romance as well, like maybe a little almost exploitative, and I would say exploitative. So you got you got sexploitation, you've got sci-fi, you've got horror, you've got slasher subgenre, you've got mystery and thriller. So you have all of these different genres that are all kind of woven together to create this story about this girl being haunted by this, by this creature. And it was so weird because you're watching the movie and you're getting this idea that you're getting the sense that this poor girl is being being followed by her doppelganger or whatever. Something's going on. Maybe it's twin sister. They set up the possibility that they know about each other. But then it turns out that there's like this fucking entity thing that Drew Barrymore that Holly ends up going through this weird supernatural transformation. She splits into two partially, goopy, almost Geiger-esque entities that then, and then and you can see it like there's this weird pupa moment where it's like this tailed thing that is bouncing around. It's fucking bizarre. The practical effects were decent, and the reason I kind of chose Doppelganger is because I recently came across a picture of a young Drew Barrymore with her hand around around the shoulders of this entity, and I remembered, oh yeah, it was a weird fucking movie, a weird fucking climax in that, and so there's like this idea of like this vanishing twin that was this twin that was absorbed as a fetus in the womb, and that her psychiatrist, Dr. Heller, has been manipulating her and has been responsible for all of her misfortunes and has manipulated her alternate personality in order to turn it into it. So it's really, really strange. So like I said, a psychological horror, thriller, slasher, and then of course sci-fi and of course horror in and of itself. It's very, very weird. There's a lot of elements going on here. So as far as like a film itself goes, there's not much to really draw from it. It's confusing because so many elements are woven together to try and, complete this narrative. But the first 3/4 of the film follow a kind of pattern, but then all of a sudden mutated entity comes out, blah, stabs, and, it's really fucking strange. And then, of course, you have the ending of it in which, one dies and then she's alive, but how do they bury her? Because she was just supposed to be a manifestation, but now there are two. Very fucking weird. And there's no explanation for it either. There's no explanation for why this happens. Like this twin that was absorbed in the womb now all of a sudden can manifest as like this entity, this weird Geiger-esque entity. It's very odd. No explanation. But then she reverts to human. She dies. Then she shows back up, and then it was all a dream. And then she's in the hospital recovering. And then she breaks the music box. It's kind of like I'm taking charge of my life now. Very, very strange. The one thing that struck me about this one is because movies like that is you got to wonder, because Drew Barrymore at the time, this was this came out, it was 1993. So Drew Barrymore was early 20s, if I remember correctly, when she first starred in this one. And at this time, she was breaking away from the good girl persona in the that she had grown, because she was a child actress. And you think of the movie that she had done when she was a precocious kid, E.T. Of course, she also did Firestarter as well. But she was, the precocious young little girl that everybody loved. And then, of course, you need to break away from that. So like any actor attempting to break into new ground, to do new stuff, Drew Barrymore was breaking through by taking on more adult roles. And the best way to do that and the fastest way to do it, the most, I would say, the most aggressive way to do that, so you make sure you don't get pulled back, is by doing adult roles with a lot of sex, a lot of sexploitation, and basically, show to everybody that you are an adult. And that's ostensibly what she did. If you take Doppelganger as well as the movie Poison Ivy, in which she legit has a sex scene with Tom Skerritt, which is weird because it was her and that was Sarah Gilbert and Tom Skerritt. That was a very, very strange film. I remember seeing that when it came out. So Drew Barrymore made the obviously I would say some interesting choices in breaking away from the initial Hollywood image that she had built for herself. And she needed to break out in other fairs so she could do other roles. If she had not been successful in doing that, then we wouldn't get the Drew Barrymore that we have today. We obviously wouldn't have seen Drew in Scream. We obviously wouldn't have seen Drew kicking ass and taking names in Santa Clarita Diet, which I thought she was fucking brilliant in. And it was a travesty that show was canceled. But this was one of the movies that gave us the Drew Barrymore that we love today, that we know and love today. The Drew Barrymore that kicks ass and takes no prisoners. The Drew Barrymore of Charlie's Angels fame, instead of where she might have gone if she'd stayed there and if she had not done this, she might have gone the route of, say, like actresses like Patty Duke, where she's extremely talented, but she's kind of pigeonholed into this good girl image that she will wind up just doing movies for Lifetime. The reason we got mainstream, deeply loved Drew Barrymore, what we have today, is because she was willing at a young age to take her career into her own hands and and literally go for projects that were completely antithetical to who the American public thought that she was. I thought this film in and of itself, despite how weird it was, and of course stuff like when she flashed David Letterman. That's right, on the Tonight Show or on the Late Show with David Letterman. Sorry, Leno fans, my bad. So when you look at the choice that she made when she was younger, this is where it went. And obviously Drew has spoken candidly about her difficulties with alcohol and drugs when she was younger. I think virtually every single child actor in Hollywood has dealt with these things, some unsuccessfully, some successfully. I think that in a number of ways she got really, really lucky. But of course, there were difficulty along the way. She got a lot of flack for appearing in this film, for appearing in Poison Ivy, and for taking on more challenging and more adult fare. She was in Batman Forever, exactly, playing the sexy, the sweet girl, not the spicy girl. So with fucking Tommy Lee Jones, and so it was her ability, her willingness, her brazen attitude in saying, no, you're not going to dictate how my career goes. This is what I'm going to do. And she took the chances and she did it. And she was able to forge a career out of that. But these are the perils and pitfalls of changing one's image. In Hollywood, she had an identity. Drew Barrymore had one identity. And when you try to break out of that, you are not always successful. Individuals like Daniel Radcliffe have been able to do it. It's far easier today than it definitely was back then. Individuals like Brian Bosnell, Brad Renfro, a number of, I would say, actors ran into that wall and they could not break through. And unfortunately, some of them ended in tragedy, which is a damn shame. Jake Lloyd is one, it starts off a little kid, cannot segue into anything else because, sometimes it is too difficult. But she was one of the lucky ones. I would say Macaulay Culkin as well, damn near didn't make it out. Like, he hit and there were some difficult times there, but Macaulay Culkin got through. Now he's kicking ass and taking names as well, thanks to some awesome film opportunities. Like Saved was a fantastic one for him. Mandy Moore, that was a great movie. But ultimately, I enjoyed this one because it was a chance to see Drew Barrymore, not only because Drew Barrymore's sexy as hell, is beyond that, because this was unlike anything she'd pretty much done previously. Like, she was really pushing the envelope to break out of that image. And I like what she was willing to do, the choices that she made. So if you want to watch a film like this and look beyond the fact that it's Drew Barrymore, she's hot and she's doing sexy stuff, look at it from the aspect that it's a decently shot film. It's, there's an interesting story and it's kind of experimental in the genres it brings together. But ultimately, this is one moment in a talented and beloved actress's life as she is breaking through to the next level. And she is literally going against everything that everyone is telling her. And you can see that she is going for broke. She gave it her all in this one. There's not a moment where she drops the ball, she phones it in. No, she was fearless. Oh, the look on Letterman's face was priceless. Absolutely. Hey, Adam Strange. Good to see you. Thanks so much for hanging out. Taking a break from beating up the Guardians of the Galaxy. Do appreciate you being here. Hope you're well. Wish we could have gotten you in interactions with Thanos because that would have been more in line with the comics, but glad you popped in to say hi. But I enjoyed Doppelganger. I enjoyed Doppelganger for what was going on behind the scenes, for what's going on in the careers of these individuals. It's kind of one of those ones that you might forget, but when you think about what's going on with its lead actress and the choices she was making and what she was going through at the time, it's pretty intense. And you can see a lot of the stuff kind of come out in not only her performance, but obviously in the direction of her career after this took place. So I got to give it to her. I got to give thumbs up to Drew Barrymore for the willingness to go there, for the fearlessness to go there and take her career in her hands. Say she's not going to listen to anybody else. She's going to do it her way. She's going to make it on her own and not run by anybody else's tune. So, which I found to be incredibly impressive. So definitely. But my question is this: Drew Barrymore has done a number of horror films. She's also done many films that were not horror, but she's done a number of horror films. What is your favorite, or what do you think is the best Drew Barrymore role? What role has she been the absolute best in? So let us know down in the comments below, of course, at weekinhorror@gmail.com. The best, what you think is the best, or you just your favorite Drew Barrymore role, especially if it's horror. Definitely let us know. Casey Cooper said when she hosted SNL as a teenager, she said she had a strong will. Fuck yes, she did. Fuck yes. She absolutely did. All right, let's move on to our next one. This one was interesting. I gotta give this one was really interesting. So this next film we're going to talk about, we're going to go across the pond to talk about this one. Released May 26th, 2006, and we have Beneath Still Waters. Let's check out this trailer. I think, what was the new name we got for it? Someone gave a new name. What's the new name for the TV? The Terror Tube? Terror Tube. Who came up with Terror Tube? Let me know. Hey, Cindy Sue, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Oh, favorite is Ever After. Very nice. Yeah, she was good in Ever After. I also kind of liked her in Never Been Kissed. I thought she was fucking hilarious. I thought she was just great in that. Josie, she's just like, yeah. Sarcasm. I loved her in Donnie Darko. Oh, her small role in that. I will say 50-50. Drew Barrymore and Patrick Swayze. Their small roles, they knocked them out of the fucking park. God, they were both good in that. Richard Stanley knew how to cast a fucking. He knows how to cast a fucking movie, man. Was that? I want to make sure I got that right. Richard Kelly. Sorry, I messed up. Not Stanley. Richard Kelly. Richard Kelly knows how to cast a fucking role, man. I loved her in that. Loved her and Patrick Swayze both that. Travis Brown says, my girlfriend and I watched Ever After for our first Valentine's Day date. Love it. Oh, amazing. Very cool. Awesome. Yeah, Richard Kelly, he fucking killed it in that one. All right, here we go. Let's check out this trailer for Beneath Still Waters. On the Terror Tube. I have to say, Travis has shock screen. I have to say, I kind of dig Terror Tube. Terror Tube just kind of I like the alliteration, obviously. Wrote no last name came up with Terror Tube. I like Terror Tube. I kind of do. And it kind of rolls off the tongue. It's just like the Terror Tube. And Angel Rivera, good to see you, says Cat's Eye. Cat's Eye and Firestarter. I fucking loved her in Cat's Eye. Especially when the third story with the troll. I loved that one because it showed all of her range, especially at that time, being so young. She was fucking phenomenal in that. Woo! Smush into the fan. I fucking love that sequence. Oh, good stuff. And she was also good in 50 First Dates. She was. All right, come on. Let's cue up the Terror Tube and check out this trailer. I like Terror Tube.
Years ago, an evil was spawned in the town of Marienbad.
Well, that name doesn't just it's a foreboding evil and foreboding.
They tried to destroy it. To drown it beneath the waters of the dam. But one got away. Now he's come back. And the nightmare begins again.
Did you feel that? What? There.
Captain, we got something!
Who are you?
Dan Quarry.
He was my father. He didn't do it.
What do you think happens when we die?
Maybe the soul is like a drop of water. And when we die, we join all of our loved ones.
Today, we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Marimba Dam!
What are you doing out here after dark?
I love that. What are you doing out there?
From director Brian Usna and Fantastic Factory, creators of Beyond Reanimator and Darkness, comes the tale of a town infected by its past. That which was left for dead will emerge again from beneath still waters.
All right. That was the trailer for Beneath Still Waters. So, Beneath Still Waters, my horror film directed by Brian Usna in Spanish. This is originally a Spanish film. Pronounced, the title was Bajo Aguas Tranquilas. So below still waters, below tranquil waters is how, or beneath tranquil waters, I think is how it translates. But directed by Brian Usna, written by Mike Hostinch and Angel Sala, based on Beneath Still Waters by Matthew Costello. Starring Michael McKell, Raquel Moronio, and Charlotte Salt. So the film centers around a small town which is celebrating its 40th anniversary, just gearing up for a 40th anniversary. The 40th anniversary of the moving of the town ever since the original area was flooded by a dam. So the original town area was, they evacuated everyone and they flooded the whole place, and the town set up, and they are now getting ready to celebrate their like the 40th anniversary of the moving of the town of Marienbad. And all of a sudden, a number of strange disappearances and deaths in mysterious circumstances begin to threaten the town, as we realize that the horror that resulted in the town being flooded before has now returned. So I dug this one. So people may remember Raquel Moronio. Raquel Moronio was one of the regulars that worked often with Usna, and of course with Stanley Gordon. And yes, someone brought this up, and I have to bring this. So Travis Brown still has the feels of Dagon. So one thing I have to say about this one is Beneath Still Waters felt very, very much like Stanley Gordon's Dagon. Like, it was almost a retelling of that. You have the town with the secret history, which was the area that was flooded. You have the monsters coming up out of the water, and then of course you have the people who used to live there, who have ancestral ties to the town, have now come, and they have to undo the evil and try to survive it and undo it. It definitely, and not to mention all of the extensive underwater sequences. Now, I will always give a lot of love to underwater sequences, because underwater sequences are always extraordinarily difficult to shoot. Not only because, obviously, you're moving the film production underwater. So from an equipment standpoint, from a safety standpoint, from an acting standpoint, it's very, very difficult. In fact, Morena Baccarin recently did an interview on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, Inside the View, where she talked about having to do that, having to act underwater and how difficult that is, because it was an unused sequence for the second Deadpool film, where they were trying to do it underwater, and sort of her hair would be all floaty and everything when she was in the other space. And she said they ended up not using it at all, but it's an absolutely brutal, difficult, and sometimes dangerous scenario to act in. It's very, very hard. They do a lot of underwater photography in this one. A lot of excellent scuba sequences and some fantastic matte work as far as the miniatures they created, and then matting the scuba sequences against that. So wonderful, wonderful production value in this one. I can kind of consider this movie Dagon 2.0, because it's Lovecraftian in some elements. Yuzna is a fan of Lovecraft, as was Stanley Gordon. The two of them pretty much came up together. Yuzna working under Stanley Gordon. So you get a lot of Gordon feel to this. You get a lot of Lovecraftian feel to this. Only I think that this movie, having come after Dagon, that this film is ostensibly what Dagon could have been with more money. With more money, better technology, and better effects. I think Yuzna would have done a fantastic Dagon, but because Stanley had already done it, that's why he did this one. But you have so many elements, that go along with this. Jeremy Duncan says, if it has to do with water and it doesn't have fins or tentacles, it's not horror, it's thriller. So, this one definitely had, monstrous things in there. And Rodent Los Angeles, yes, still has a dead connotation. Still waters, yes. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this film more than I thought I was going to. I thought it was just going to be kind of like, it's another cheapy Brian Yuzna one. It's like, no, this one was well done. As a matter of fact, I wish this level of set design, this level of art direction, and the level of effects that were in this, I wish that Dagon had that, because this level would have made Dagon so much better. Dagon would have been a much stronger film had it had access to this, but that's just the advent of better technology and more money to play with. I think Yuzna did an excellent job with what he had. Not to mention the acting is quite good. The lead actress in this, was Charlotte Salt, who plays Clara. Charlotte is, does not oversell it, and does not oversell it or undersell it as kind of like the final girl, where everything kind of centers on her, when this disciple of Aleister Crowley returns from the dead to basically, turn everything into this, to basically turn the world into an orgy of like death and sex and sin and shit and all kinds of insanity. There's some fantastic practical effects. The sequence when the dude grabs him, rips his head open and starts eating shit. There's some really, really, intense stuff that goes on in this movie. I really enjoyed it. Not to mention, for those who are not familiar, Javier Botet, who is a Spanish actor who suffers from, or I would say who has Marfan syndrome and is known for playing monsters. He played Mama in Guillermo del Toro's Mama. He played the Mama character. Those long, spindly arms, super, super tall. So this was his film debut. The mutated monster that comes out and kills the dude who's working in the dam control area, the thing that comes out of the water and drags him away, that was Javier Botet. So this was his film debut. So Yuzna, found this guy, was like, you get to be one of my monsters. It's fantastic stuff. So I really enjoyed this one. Good, solid practical effects, good, excellent miniature work, great matte work, and of course, decent acting and decent writing. All of the elements of this, I felt myself wishing that all of these had been in Dagon. I wish Dagon had access to this, because there was so much good stuff in Beneath Still Waters. But because it's Brian Yuzna, because Brian came up under Stanley Gordon, because of that, I think that's the reason why this one didn't get the play that it was meant to get. Not to mention, it was shot in Spain, so this is ostensibly a Spanish film. There's English in it. They speak English, but because it didn't get that kind of international release, I think it deserved. It didn't get. I don't think it gets the credit it does. Sarcasm says, "I just thought it was way too slow. It needed better editing to pick up the pace or more tension building." And I can see why you think that. I have to disagree, because faster pacing kind of takes out of the Lovecraftian slow burn element, which Yuzna loves. Yuzna has you look at all of his movies, even his movie Rottweiler. about a killer, attack dog. Even that one had a slow burn. He loves slow burn to big moments. He digs it. It's one of the things he's best at. Look at one of his most extreme film. Look at fucking Society. It was exactly that. The slow burn, weirdness, slow burn, all the way up into the shunting scene. That's what Yuzna is good at. So I strongly recommend, if you haven't had an opportunity, if you've seen Dagon, if you've seen Stanley Gordon's Dagon, which was an adaptation of Shadow over Innsmouth by H.P. Lovecraft. If you haven't seen Dagon yet, watch Dagon. But then again, if you have seen Dagon, definitely watch this. I say definitely check this one out if you get the opportunity. It's hard to find, but if you can find it, watch it. But watch Dagon and then watch this. Watch the two back to back. I think that there's a kind of I would say this is kind of like the spiritual successor to Dagon. I really, really enjoyed it. And I think overall it shows great improvement in Brian Yuzna's direction and his ability to handle production. This is improving. This is the evolution of the man. This is the improvement of what he does. When he knows what works, he's got it down pat, and he can run with it and be like, this is going to be amazing. We're going to run with this. And I've done it 5-6 times before, because he came up under Gordon, and Gordon was one of the greatest teachers as far as filmmaking goes. So I enjoyed this one because you see Yuzna really in his element. This is him really running with what he knows, like what he does best. And so, film is less than 20 years old. Came out in 2000, came out in 2006. So not even that long ago. But really, really enjoyed this one. Especially the underwater scenes are really fantastic. All of the miniature effects were done extraordinarily well. Any CGI that's in it does not look super cheesy. The vast majority of his practical effects, I really dug it. I think other people enjoyed it as well. It's up there in what I would consider to be some of Yuzna's best work. But that's the question I want to ask. I want to ask the audience. What do you think is the best Brian Yuzna film? Now, he's produced as much as he has directed. So whether he produced the film or directed the film, what do you think has been the best Brian Yuzna film? Let us know down in the comments below. Of course, at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Love to hear your thoughts on that. And right, Rodinello says slow burns or buildups are good. Not everything needs to be Michael Bay explosions. Explosions. It doesn't need it. It's not required. Exactly. I love the way Yuzna approaches filmmaking. I love it. This is almost languid. It's almost like reading a book. You look at the inspiration there. You look at the idea of you sitting down, reading a book, feeling it as it builds, and you're seeing the images in your mind. I love the way Yuzna directs, and I love the way Stanley Gordon directed before he passed away. I love the inspiration he had there, because if you look at it, Gordon had his style, and Yuzna came up underneath him, and then Yuzna took that inspiration and that training and ran with it with his own, made it his own. So you got Yuzna style, you got Gordon style. And I love the way they approach it, especially their Lovecraft adaptations. Really good stuff. Plus, they had the balls to go and say, we're going to adapt this. We're going to make these adaptations, and we're going to run with it. These are the minds behind Reanimator. So fuck yeah, definitely. Sarcasm says all of them. His whole body of work is brilliant. I fucking love Brian Yuzna's work. He does not get the love I think he deserves. Extra J says, I've seen Dagon, Red Shadow over Innsmouth, and watched short film of it. Now it's time for this one. Awesome. I hope you really enjoyed this one. Travis Brown says, Reanimator. No contest. Dude, Jeffrey Combs and Stanley Gordon, Brian Yuzna, that was a trio. That was a trio made for horror films. Fuck yes. All right. So let's move on to the last film that we have tonight. The last movie we've got, and this was a fun one. And it was interesting this movie really got me. This kind of got me. I don't think there's any polishing needed on this. I think we're actually going to have an episode where I don't have to bust out the Turd Polisher 9000. But let's talk about this one. It released May 27th, 1981. We have The Monster Club. Let's check out this. Let's check out the Terror Tube. I love that. Fire up the Terror Tube.
I will take you to a place where my friends foregather. There you will find stories of such blood-curdling terror it will make your toes curl and your hair reach up towards the sky.
He likes to take you by surprise.
he likes to leave a very special calling card.
It was the best blood I have ever tasted.
He's giving you a very special invitation. 3 stories to shock you, chill you, thrill you, and make you laugh.
There's a face at my window as the darkness closes in.
Everybody knows about garlic and steaks through the heart.
Yes, we all have our cross to bear.
I'm just a sucker for your love. I'm just a sucker for your love. I'm just a sucker for...
You are one of his kind now. You have to be staked by your own men. You made them all the same. Don't want to know your name. Just come back again and pay the stripper. So let the show begin. I'll show you everything. Pull out the safety pin.
Songs by B.A. Robertson.
Don't you look down on me.
Night.
With the strange twisted.
The Pretty Things. The Viewers.
Tell me I'm not going to let you go until you do.
We must have our food.
But remember, he likes to take you by surprise. You've been invited to the Monster Club. Come at your peril.
So yes, that was the Monster Club. Like that. So Monster Club, a British, very, very British anthology horror film. Directed by Roy Ward Baker, written by Edward Abraham and Valerie Abraham, produced by Milton Sebasti, and starring Vincent Price, Donald Pleasance, John Carradine, Stuart Whitman, and Richard Johnson. So this one, what can I say with this one? Yes, sarcasm says like that, and you have Donald Pleasance. That's right. So sarcasm said completely over the top, and I loved it. So this film was okay. So the film itself centers around a they did the Monster Mash. Yes, they did Sorcerer Red Hair. So the film centers around this, obviously this horror writer legend, this legendary horror writer who is attacked in a dark alley by Vincent Price's character, who happens to be a vampire. And so he attacks him, and then when he wakes up, he realizes that, it's like the vampires exist. And being such a fan of his ability to write horror, he invites him to the Monster Club, where literal monsters hang out. You got vampires, werewolves, and all kinds of stuff. And guest band every week. Fuck yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. I like that wrote last name. Premise for a horror anthology TV series, guest band every week. Fuck yes. So he invites him to the Monster Club, where he basically gives him a rundown of not only the genealogy of monsters, but tells him 3, spine-tingling tales of both horror and, comedy. And tells him these 3 stories, and then that's where it ends with, and it ends on a very interesting note. But I will say that the movie is incredibly British, so British. In fact, you get a taste of how British it's going to be after Vincent Price's character bites him. After Vincent Price bites John Carradine's character, it's like, he bites him, and then everything goes black, and he wakes up, and he's like, and he's like, cheerio, and then hands him his ID. He's like, I'm such a wonderful fan of yours. It's like, he's like, don't worry, you're not going to turn into one of me. Oh, that's good to know. It's like, excellent. Everybody is so fucking British in this, and that's what makes it so wonderful, because it's not so over the top that it's just laugh out loud, like you laugh at how ridiculous it is. It's just kind of like, wow, it's quintessentially British. And not to mention the stories in and of themselves. So the production values obviously were very good in the 3 stories. The framing narrative of being inside the Monster Club is also pretty entertaining. Obviously, a lot of the patrons of the bar are individuals who are in very obvious masks, just like rubber masks, you can tell. But that doesn't matter, because the film, what makes it great is that it does not take itself too extremely seriously. Is that the film is meant to be fun. It's meant to be much in the vein of like the Monster Squad. So it's meant to be just, let's come in and let's just like have these legendary actors work across from another and have fun. You've got fucking John Carradine and Vincent Price, hamming it up back and forth, talking about the existence of actual literal monsters, and some of the goofiest monsters I've ever heard of. but you see their kind of inspirations, like in the Shadmock. I've never heard of the term of a Shadmock, but apparently the Shadmock, played by James Lawrence, and is very much like I would say very akin to the original version of the Phantom from the Phantom of the Opera. You know, they're kind of like lurking in the shadows, wearing a mask to hide itself, shunning, you know, the public. It has the ability to whistle and like literally melt shit. And there's moments, which is what's interesting, is that there's moments where you have this, you know, really, really well shot, very beautifully done, excellent set design, excellent production value. And these moments where it's kind of like, oh, is this really a horror film? And then all of a sudden you have a moment like when he melts the chick who betrayed him, when he whistles at her and he melts her, and then she shows back up at home and she's like all like melted and decayed. And she's just like, you get moments like that that are intense, not to mention like the ghoul one, where the ghouls attacked the director who was looking for a new shooting location. There were some dark moments that were in that, some things that are implied that, and of course, how it leads, how, you know, the police are in on it. They wind up turning, you know, he tries to escape, he ends up escaping, and they wind up grabbing him and taking him back to that place. So because they're because the police guard the elders, the ghoul elders who eat the dead. So really, really intriguing stuff. But it's a sense of fun. You know, and it has, yes, Rodin No Last Name is correct. It has what many films lack, and that is just a sense of fun, a sense of the fun of what we enjoy about the genre in and of itself. And I found it really, really interesting. The stories are good. There are 3 stories: the Shadmock, the vampires, and the ghouls. And the Shadmock was about this woman and her boyfriend who are grifters, and she winds up taking a job with this ultra rich guy whose name is Raven, who is this hybrid creature called a Shadmock, who looks he's like very dour, very, very Phantom of the Opera looking, the original like Lon Chaney version. And then of course, they try to basically steal his money, and he winds up, you know, in the course of like learning where the safe is and, you know, doing the job, he winds up falling in love with her, and eventually she winds up trying to betray him. He whistles her and melts her completely, and her boyfriend winds up going insane and is locked in an asylum. Then you've got the vampires, which was a family of vampires that are being targeted by a group of vampire hunters led by Donald Pleasance, which I have to say is one of the funniest moments in the movie, was when Donald Pleasance sneaks up on the dad and he stakes him in his coffin. You know, it's like, and then at the last moment he jumps up, and he bites Donald Pleasance in the neck, and then he's like, now you're infected, and then I die. So now all of a sudden the leader of the vampire hunters is there with his 2 buddies, with his backup, and he himself is becoming a vampire. So now he must be staked. And this moment when one of the dudes, what the hell was his name? See, it's 1 second. I wonder if I can catch his name. Because Donald Pleasance was Pickering. I think it might have been. No, I don't know if it was Richard Johnson or if it was Stuart Whitman. But anyway, you had one of the guys. Oh no, I think it might have been Anthony Valentine. But either way, one of his goons, one of his backup, is like, picks up the stake and the hammer, and it's like, so we have to. There is no cure for the virus. The virus is in you. Now, if you'll kindly lie on your back so we can get a good angle when we do this. It's so British. It's like, oh well, you're a vampire now. We must stake you. It's like, please lay down so we can go ahead and take care of this. And Donald Pleasance's reaction to it, the way he fights around, is just absolutely hilarious. And not in a sense that it's just like an unintentional comedy, just that it's really enjoyable to watch, because it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be tongue-in-cheek. And then, of course, when the vampire hunters are gone, the dad pops back up and says, ha-ha, stake-proof vest. You know, they didn't kill me. Everything is great. So it's weird and it's strange, but it's a lot of fun. That's the point, is that you get to kind of check out for a little bit to watch this. And then you have the third film, which was The Ghouls, which I think was obviously the way you should run an anthology. Is the best one always. You always end with the best. And The Ghouls was fantastic because it's about Stuart Whitman, who plays this director, who's scouting locations for his horror film. And he winds up finding this place called like Loughville. You see signs for it. And Loughville is like this secluded little hamlet that's like sequestered from the rest of the world that is literally full of ghouls. And they destroy his car and they won't let him leave. And he winds up, cornering himself in this fucking this little church where the consecrated ground because they can't go onto it, and he winds up holding up there while he tries to figure out an escape plan. He winds up escaping, and with the help of a young girl, who is a hybrid called a humghoul, who is a half human, half ghoul, and then she helps him to escape. And then eventually he winds up getting the police, and then the police drive him out there. Winds up the police work with them as well, and he's returned to the village by the ghoul policeman, and they wind up eating him, or they assume they wind up eating him. That one was excellently done, fantastic production values, and got a little dark at times. We're talking about like creatures that eat the dead, that they want to eat him. So I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I think a lot of people would enjoy this one. It's like I said, it's a moment to check out. The only thing I think would be better was what I found out about this one is that you had Vincent Price, just hamming it up, absolutely brilliant. Is that originally Christopher Lee was originally sought out to play John Carradine's role of the horror writer, and I think that would be the only thing that could make it done. That could have made it better. He turned it down because his agent told him the title, The Monster Club, and Christopher Lee just like, nope, I'm not doing it. Which was a damn shame, because I think Christopher Lee would have been fantastic. Christopher Lee and Vincent Price working across from each other, I think it would have been fantastic. Peter Cushing was also offered the role of Anthony Steele, which was the, if I remember correctly, let me see. Peter Cushing turned out a role in it, and this was the last film that Anthony Steele appeared in, because he was the guy who was telling the story in the second story. So, but yeah, Peter Cushing was offered a role. Christopher Lee was offered a role. They both turned it down. Lee turned it down, but they picked up John Carradine, which was cool. So I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Thought it was great. I think if you just want to check out a little bit, have some fun with the movie. But here's the thing that got me, that I think is worthy of talking about, is Vincent Price himself. And not like, we're not going to dive into his filmography, because I think everybody here agrees that Vincent Price is a fucking legend. So there's an end of the film, at the end of the film, kind of like the epilogue of the framing narrative. This is a monster club, and everybody there is monsters. So everyone in the movie is a monster there, except for John Carradine's character, who is simply a human. He's a human, and he's just a horror writer. But now he's seen the Monster Club. He knows these things exist. Now he can go out in the world. He can write more books. And then at the end of it, Vincent Price says he wants to kind of like sponsor the horror writer into being a member of the Monster Club. And everybody's like, humans never been a member of the Monster Club. We're all monsters here. And then Vincent Price goes on to give this monologue about how monstrous human beings are. Oh, bark, bark. And so Vincent Price delivers this monologue, this cheerfully British monologue about how horrible human beings are, and lists down all of the terrible things throughout human history. All the ways we've invented of killing each other, all the ways we've invented to separate ourselves, everything. It goes like everything, it's kind of like, oh shit. Now it makes sense because, and why, given this element, why Vincent Price would easily jump on this script is because Vincent Price himself, when he passed, towards the end of his life, was a diehard liberal. And I learned this about Vincent Price, that early on, if you read Vincent Price's daughter's biography of him, she released a biography of what it was like growing up, released an autobiography of growing up as Vincent Price's daughter. And when she grew up, her father, Vincent Price, got caught up in all of the insanity going on during World War II. So, hey, Nemo 813, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. And so he got caught up in that. But then realizing why he was right, why it was wrong, he descended like full on liberal, and he was deeply supportive of many progressive agendas. He was instrumental in doing work that supported LGBTQ inclusion, and of course, removing the stigma, or trying to help with removing the stigma of HIV and AIDS in the 80s. So he was an enormous, not only a tremendous actor and a beloved actor at that, because everyone who ever met him spoke incredibly highly of the man, but he was also a force for change. He did what he did. He utilized his notoriety and his popularity to really push things that he felt helped society. So, and a lot of that was informed by the fact that when his daughter came out as gay, he himself was not only her greatest ally and her greatest advocate, but he himself also confided in her. And you can read about this incredible story in her biography. But he confided in her about his relationships with many of the men in his life that he had kind of kept under wraps. And so he was able to confide in her when his own daughter came out as gay. And he was kind of like, oh, wow. So it was someone he could confide in. He was a supportive father, a tremendous gentleman, and a phenomenally talented actor, and with a remarkable history that you could dive into. Just a wonderful, wonderful individual. And the monologue he gives at the end of the Monster Club is really, really intriguing because it does kind of fall in line with his own politics. And he delivers it with such zeal and never misses a beat. You could tell that he really prepped to deliver this, to really showcase that despite this fun and enjoyable movie where you kind of check out, enjoy it for what it is, doesn't take itself too seriously, then all of a sudden smacks you with this idea that kind of, reminds the audience that the monster stories that we make up, vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein's monster, the Invisible Man, the Mummy, the Gillman, all further on, doesn't matter whether it's a universal monster, doesn't matter if it's a giant spider, doesn't matter, that all of these things are projections of ourselves. They're projections of us as people in our relationships, or they're projections of the things that we are afraid of. So all of it stems from us. The idea that humans are the most horrible monster is literally that which is reflected back at us in the form of classic movie monsters, classic story monsters, even going all the way back to Grimm's fairy tales. Those cautionary tales you tell each other. We used to tell our children to keep them from getting lost in the woods. It's really, really intriguing, and you can tell that meant that getting the chance to do that scene meant a lot to Price. I could see it on his face. You could see it in the way he performed it and in the way he kind of just, ate the scene as he's delivering this very important monologue, which I really enjoyed because it'll hit you, but it's not on the nose. It's not terribly on the nose. It's not like hitting you with a hammer, trying to force it into your head. It's really, really intriguing. And I liked it. It took me by surprise because it kind of was like, oh, we went there. Interesting. And I really, really loved it. I really did. Yes, it is a Mothman shirt. Mothman. Rodin Al-Sam says, even a new monster can become a classic monster. Absolutely. Tony Regime says, the theme of man is the real monster is well done in Barker's Nightbreed. Agreed that man is the true monster. Jeremy Duncan says, well, this is a horror channel, so he's a lizard, not a wizard. I'm a lizard, Harry. But I love it. Yeah, it's just as in Clive Barker's Nightbreed, that the real horror, the real monster is man himself. Just like in Fear the Walking Dead did that. It was fight the dead, fear the living. That kind of thing. So yeah, and I really, really enjoyed this one. It's a very interesting message that is not too heavy-handed, and a really, really fun film that you can just kind of enjoy yourself. Just kick back and be like, oh, this is entertaining with decent production values. Shot extremely well. Excellent choreography, excellent acting from some of the legends in time. John Carradine, Vincent Price, Donald Pleasance. You can see them kind of having fun with it, not taking themselves too seriously. It's good stuff. Really did enjoy this one. But I have to ask the audience, given that, Vincent Price, one of the greatest actors of the horror genre, up there with, with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, who, by the way, all have birthdays in May, which is fucking wild. All born around the same time. But Vincent Price, what do y'all think is the best Vincent Price film? So many to choose from. Storied career. And so it's going, so long he was in the business. But What do y'all think is the best Vincent Price film, horror or otherwise? Because he did many. Let us know down in the comments below at weekinhorror@gmail.com what you think is the best Vincent Price film. All right. So, wow, look at that. I'm doing pretty good on time. That's excellent. Ooh, Sarcasm brings up the abominable Dr. Phoebes. Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. Prince of Horror, he absolutely is. Angel Rivera. Travis Brown says Edward Scissorhands. What I think was his last film. Absolutely. The Tim Burton short Vincent, which was his kind of love letter to Vincent Price. Absolutely. Joshua says Christopher Lee, the man with the heavy metal album. He absolutely does. Raven Darker says Thriller. Oh, his narration in Thriller was fantastic. Absolutely. Tony Regime says Theater of Blood is the best. Price gets to go to 11 with the ham. Awesome. I'm a really big fan of Mask of the Red Death. I really love that one, especially, like the big reveal at the end when the mask comes off and he's just like, oh, I fucking love that. Absolutely. Mask of the Red Death was fantastic. Joshua Lee brings up House of Usher, Pit and the Pendulum. Fantastic. Yes, An Evening with Edgar Allan Poe. There's so many good ones. Absolutely. I really love it. Just love that sequence when he's standing there, he's got the mask at Prospero's party, and then the mask comes off. And he was like, I fucking love that sequence. So good. Just classic. Him in the red and everything. You knew when that eyebrow kind of went up, things were going to get sinister. Fucking loved him. Absolutely. Well, it is about that time, and y'all know what time it is. It is trivia time. And you can blame Alex for us doing that now, but it's absolutely his fault. But yes, it is trivia time. So, flex those Google fingers, my horror fiends, because this one may be a little tough, maybe kind of easy. I know the last one was kind of tough, but maybe it went a little easy on this one, but let's find out. So, get ready. The first person with the correct answer in the live chat gets a mystery item from the Week in Horror store. So, I recently found out why things have been delayed is because Teespring was bought by another company. Recently found out about that. So it wasn't because of what was going on in Ukraine. It was because they were bought out by another company. They were restructuring. That's why things got so friggin' delayed. Hopefully they've got that short up now, but I found that out. But nonetheless, here we go. Your trivia question tonight. First one to get the correct answer live chat wins a mystery item from the Week in Horror store. And of course, here we go. You ready? Are you ready? There was no turd polishing in this one. You didn't need it. It's amazing. All right, here we go. Your trivia question tonight. While renowned for his horror performances, Vincent Price actually started his film career in what 1938 comedy? While renowned for his horror performances, Vincent Price actually started his film career in what 1938 comedy? The person with the first correct answer in the live chat gets a mystery item from the Week in Horror store. Who's got it? Who's got it? Who's got it? I got to pull up the live chat to make sure I'm... There we go. And make sure we go to all messages. Great. Who do we have? Oh, I think we got it. Jay Vers has got it. Yes. I have it here on the live chat. Jay Vers got it with Service Deluxe. Yes, it was Service Deluxe. It was the very first. The very first film that Vincent Price did was a 1938 comedy called Service Deluxe. And actually, check it out. It's actually quite funny. So I recommend you check it out. And a bunch of people were on that one. I guess it was a little too easy. Rodella's name, Robert Biter. Good to see you, Robert Biter. Thanks so much for being here. And Andy Casablanca. Cindy Sue said Service Deluxe. Casey Cooper. Yeah, a bunch of people got it. Jay Vers was the first one. Well done, Jay Vers. I'm pretty sure that's your first. Is that your first time winning a prize? I think it is. I think that's your first time winning a prize. Isn't it? Maybe not. Let me see. I can always check my list. Javers, I think that is your first time to win a prize here. Congratulations. All right. First time. Awesome. First time taking it seriously, too. Good times. So, Javers, definitely get us your... either via Discord or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Send us your shipping details so we can get that printed and sent out to you ASAP. Well done. Congratulations once again to Jay Vers for getting the trivia answer correct tonight. All right. Well, that means That's going to be the end of the show tonight. Yes, it is. So that's going to close out another episode of the Week in Horror podcast. We thank you all so much for joining us. We truly hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, smash that like and subscribe button and be sure to hit that bell so you never miss a future episode. Join us next week when we look back at the taut serial killer horror Visiting Hours with Michael Ironside, Evil Children in Devil Times 5, Kevin Costner's sublime serial killer turn in Mr. Brooks, and another modern retelling of Dracula in Alucard. Be sure to check out Josh Olsen's store at badsamurai.store. He does all of the very cool artwork you see splattered all over our merchandise, which you can find over at Teespring. For more from Week in Horror, check out all of the bloody links down in the description. Follow us on the socials for the Daily Splatter, your daily horror recommendation. Join our Discord for watch parties, big announcements, and all kinds of horror shenanigans, or support the show directly through our PayPal link or through our Patreon. Join the higher tiers for early content access, behind-the-scenes fun with the crew, or even just support the show for as little as $1 a month. What are you waiting for? Join us. As always, thank each and every one of you for being the greatest audience a horror film podcast could possibly have. I am JL. We will see you all next week, and as always, stay scared.